because they always ask me about that.
Of course. I'm glad you'll be recording it if I have to step out, so thank you.
Hey, no problem. Yeah, you can watch the whole thing from Zoom, or if you're really interested, you can get access and be an avatar in the environment.
Oh, wow. Very interesting.
Okay, so I'm going to step through this as a recording because I've only got one person here, but I want to make it available so that other people can see what's going on. I've got it set up so that people could participate, but I'm going to run through the whole thing in Zoom so that you can basically see what's going on here. I actually asked for and received funding to create a private world for North Seattle College using the Active Worlds virtual reality environment technology. If you're not familiar with Active Worlds, you can go to www.activeworlds.com. There's some free worlds that you can go into and get used to the tools. It makes for a great environment where if you did want students to go into this, you could have them get used to it in the public environment before going into the private environment. That is the challenge, is to get all of the students able to go in. Even though you can run it on all three platforms, it becomes a little challenging if you're not in Windows. Here, I'll pop back here. I saw somebody else came in. If you do want to participate from inside, you can email me at nicole.cook@seattlecolleges.edu. And you can actually get access while I'm talking to have an avatar and walk around in the environment while I'm doing this demonstration. And so now I've got like 4 or 5 people on, so I'm going to run through this one more time. If you would like to participate live inside the environment, you can email me at nicole.cook@seattlecolleges.edu, and I will have access sent to you. Okay. Again, if you've got Windows, it's easy. If you've got Linux, you're probably good enough on a computer to get Linux working too. Mac tends to be a problem because the users of Macs don't tend to be, super technical, and there's a little bit of work to do to get in there. Okay, already went through that with the people came early. Basically, the objective here was to build lecture halls where I could teach an actual class inside the environment. I have built several lecture halls. And I did start a class in the environment this last quarter. We had some technical issues, and we'll talk about those during this session. What we'll do in this session, we'll take a look at the environment. You'll have the option to enter the environment and participate from the inside if you want to. Again, my email, nicole.cook@seattlecolleges.edu. If you want an avatar, and you'll have ongoing access for a while too. We'll do a little walkthrough to see what I've already got in the environment. We'll look at the avatars and how they can be altered to match how a student wants to be represented. And they're actually pretty cool. I mean, you can make it look as much like you as you want or not as much like you. For example, the age button. I could click my actual age in there and make it reflect that, but I chose not to. Then we're going to get an idea what it takes to build or use existing buildings in a virtual environment. I'll show you what the Active Worlds team, they built some lecture halls. I built my own lecture halls because of the way I wanted to do it, but I'll show you what those look like. And then we can discuss the first class that I started in the environment, possible issues and benefits and that kind of thing. So I'm going to break out of this. And I'm now in the environment, okay? If I want to look at me, I can say view front camera, and this is what my avatar looks like, okay? Now, I don't know, you can see my little picture in Zoom there. My hair has got purple in it, and I'm wearing those kind of glasses. I can kind of look around, you know, hairstyle. My body fat may not be consistent with my avatar, but hey, that's a personal choice. Okay. Jen, did you want access? Is that why you sent me your email? Okay, I didn't hear anything. Okay. So what we're going to do is do a little walk around first, and then we'll play around with the avatars. I'm going to go and view first person, so I'm seeing out of the eyes of the avatar. Oh, by the way, you can fly. The plus button lets you fly, and we'll view chase camera, and you can see the avatar actually can fly. Let's go back to first person. And I'm going to go into one of the halls here. And basically, I've got a lecture hall set up. Now, this particular lecture hall is set up so that if you click on an item, it brings up the slide that I'm talking about. And I have it clicked so I can bring up other slides on other screens. But that's the front of the room. I have control over what the students are seeing. The idea is the students would be in these individual desks here. And here, let me stop flying just for a minute. And so we have, you know, I can, students' desk, the lecture hall, that kind of thing. And it's basically as easy as changing a URL. All of this is URL driven. Something like http://www. But I can have this. Then Debbie, yes. Can you send the information to Jen Wang, JIN.WANG at seattlecolleges.edu? And let me know if you run. Let me know if you run out of access. Okay. All you need to do, for example, I can change this just by going up and changing, let's change this to a 4. And if I click now, everything should go to that particular slide, okay? And so there's a little more that I've asked for or requested from the designers in order to make this a little easier to do. I want to be able to stack my lecture slides. But another interesting thing, you know, apart from having the different students in there as their avatars and so they can interact. Oh, and notice up here, there's, you know, different things that they can do. They can kind of wave their hands and stuff. Is groups. So one of the things would be to have breakout groups. And so all of my lecture halls right now have the different breakout rooms. Now, I set up one breakout room for this session in a different lecture hall. And so right now there's 4 lecture halls in here. And I'm going to go into this lecture hall. okay, which is talking about, I teach networking and Linux and stuff like that. And so all of the lecture halls right now are set up for me. If somebody wanted to teach in here, by all means, let me know. We can see if I can't set something up. We'll talk about the challenges of that here coming up. So I'm going to go to the breakout rooms, and they're actually rooms. And so I'm going to run down here, and here's the team 1 room. I'm going to click. And we're now going to go inside the breakout room, and there's a room for them to talk about things. There's both chat down here and there's whisper. And so the chat is multi-mode. I can chat local, which tends to keep the conversation in a small area. I can chat global, and everybody in the environment can hear me, or I can whisper to another user, okay? So there's a number of different ways that you can communicate. This does come with voice chat services. For those of you who are do want to come in and play around in here, you're going to have to turn your microphones off while I'm doing this. Otherwise, we're going to get a feedback loop between Zoom and the active world's environment. Okay, so basically all of these lecture halls have a number of rooms where different teams can meet. Okay, so that's pretty much what there is to that. And I'm not sure when I go too fast how that is playing out in Zoom, so I'm gonna try not to go too fast. So I'm back in the lecture hall. Okay, now another cool thing about this is the avatar themselves. And so what I'm going to do is log in as a different avatar so you can see what the avatars look like when they come in. Now, just to refresh, that's my avatar. And so let me go ahead and log in as let's see, test student 2, to change the password. Of course, I did it like 3 or 4 times in a row. Beforehand just to get it right, and there we go. All right, so this is what a avatar looks like when you first come in, okay? And so what you do is you can come in here. Well, there's 2 options, and I saw when I brought the class in here, some students took this option, which is a very, I can choose any of these pre-created avatars, which require virtually no time to create anything fancy. Let's see, do I want to do any of those? Yeah, you can see they get kind of classroom. Here we go. Okay, and so there's a whole bunch of avatars that you can load that way. I'm going to go back and let's just do female tourist. But the one what really gives you the ability to do something is to click down here. And now you're able to really create the avatar that looks like you if you want it to look like you, or look like you and then modify it the way you want. So as you can see up here, I have a couple of options. Really, human is the only one I have there. I can go male or female in presentation, adult, teen, or child. So there's an option there. And then based on that, I'm going to get some options down here. I can do whatever skin color that I want. And so, depending on how much tan I want, or, wherever I want to be there, I can choose a color and it does the shading for me automatically. As I step down through here, there's a different kind of things that I can have, and like pointed ears. Yeah, if you want to go a little fantasy, sure, go ahead and do that. But here I can change the type of iris, change the color of the iris. Some of this is coming up in my second screen here. So, dark green eyes will go with, okay. And eye sparkle, eye features, I can do eyeliner, okay. And then every time I choose something like that, I am going to get the color options. So I could go into some rather significant detail in how I want to do each part of this. So just moving on down here, different face styles. Well, the face styles are more further down here. So age, right now it's 20s. If let me kind of zoom in so you can kind of see what's going on here. I can go to 40s. I can go to 50s. And you can notice that, and I can go to 70s, that features for that particular age are going to be approximated, basically. Forehead features, there's different forehead features in there, different cheek features, different things that I can put on. Face sheen, hair and hats, hair extensions, so your hair can be set up to match. Here, I'll put a ponytail. And then again, base color, I'm going to get this is continuously coming up in my second screen. My base color, let's see, I've got dark purple. Hair color. Okay, that's interesting. For some reason, I'm not getting the, oh, that's just on the extension. Okay, let me put bangs. Okay, now I'm getting the purple. I had to choose the hair before I do the extensions. Okay, and I can do a highlight color, things like that. You can go down, choose what you're wanting to wear. Upper body, there's different shirts that you can wear, t-shirts and stuff like that. Lower body, right now I could put on black jeans. And I don't want shorts, I want bell bottoms. There we go. Okay, and basically you can create your avatar to look the way you want. Now, what's cool about this, and I'm looking for that particular part here. So down here, if I wanted to accurately represent my body fat or muscle or height, I have slide bars that allow me to manipulate anything that I want to manipulate. Okay, height, can do a little manipulation there. So the point of this is I can actually make the avatar more representative of the student. It looks like I have somebody in here. I'll walk around and show them around here in a minute. Also in the face, in order to make it look like you have to have some control over the face. And let me find it here. It is here. Okay, cheek features. Sometimes I have trouble finding where the thing I'm looking for is. I know it's here because I just did it on mine. Lip color, face sheen, hand, back, ear, eye. Most of this is accessories, things that you wear on your neck. There's, there's a scarf. Eye accessories are glasses. Well, I know it's here. Oh, here's down here, facial features. Okay, so crown size, brow forward, brow inner, brow outer, eyelids. So I can actually go down and if I click on one of these, it should bring me closer. All right, so it's not bringing me closer. So let me come into my avatar and do, for example, cheeks up and down. Okay, so a lot of control. Here's the nose bridge. I can change the nose bridge. Okay. Nose up and down, nose length. I can change the length of the nose. Okay. So you really can have a presence in the virtual environment that is representative of you to the degree that you want it to be representative of you. I can go up here and now say apply, and I'm done with the avatar. And now I pretty much have the avatar that I've designed in here. Now let me do a view first person so I can look around, and sure enough, I've got somebody else over here, faculty 2. Hello, faculty 2. I can talk in the environment. I'm going to turn this on for a minute. And so the one person that's in here can hear me. The problem is if you don't have all of your students in here, and we can talk a little bit about this, I brought the class in, and because I didn't get everybody in, I had to also be running Zoom. And so dealing with technical sound loops when you're running 2 separate environments becomes a problem. And so that's where I'm at right now is figuring that out. But I'll turn this on for a minute. I may create a loop. My apologies if I do. So I'm now I'm now speaking into the environment just like I'm speaking into Zoom. And notice I can just click the button and speak whenever I want, or I can just click on the button when I want to talk. Okay, so there's a couple of different ways to do that. Okay, so we've looked around the environment. You can kind of see the rooms there. The one other thing I wanted to show you, and it's kind of along the lines of building. I did make an area just for students to go, and you guys, if you come in, can go there as well. That little portal right here. I'm going to fly down there. And there's some objects that you could use to build with here, and get a little feel for what it would take to build your own. However, as I mentioned before, the team that built the software also builds these objects. And so these 2 buildings right here are built by them. I'm going to shift and go through the wall and walk in. This is one of their lecture halls. Okay, and this would be no building on your part. Okay, so there's this lecture hall. They have one other lecture hall that I have next door here. Let me go through the wall here. I can hold the shift key down and go through the wall. And this one's not fleshed out. You kind of have to specify how you want it to look. Right now, I've got it just, the texture is concrete, but you can see there's different kinds of rooms in here. Like I said, they make pre-built stuff, or you can build your own. What does it take to build something in here? It's not that difficult. That's why I put these out here. Basically, all of these are primitive objects like you would find in a CAD system. And it pretty much works like a graphical environment within a CAD system. So here I've got 2 objects on the ground, 2 as a wall and 2 at the top. And it can be as simple, I can select multiple objects at the time. And there I have, I've doubled the size of this room that I'm working on. Changing what they look like, there's a number of different building blocks, and if you know what they are, great. But you can work with textures. Pretty much I can come in here and change this to any texture that I'm aware of, something like concrete, and I can change it to look like concrete. Sand, I think is, well, that's not sand, but okay. Sand, grass, maybe it's sand 1. Oh, there we go, sand 1. So there's a little bit of familiarity in order to get the understanding of the different textures and default styles of objects. Now, I've intentionally come out here for anybody that wants to play around. Like I said, after the fact, if you want to be able to come in, just send me an email, say you want to be able to come in. I'll give you a username and password that you can use and play around in here. But I've thrown in some, giant sphere, some seats, a giant cube, and anything is not size dependent. I can go in and say size 0.511 and scale. And notice one of its dimensions now reduced to half of its previous size. And so the size of it I can change around. There's also a number of things. There's bushes and trees, and this tree is kind of not very spectacular, but it's an easy one to use. There's more realistic trees in the environment as well. But that's pretty much, it's easy to build. It is somewhat easy to get your students in if the students are motivated to go in, because with a Windows system, it's pretty much just download the software. It's a single link. It will download our particular environment. This is the North Seattle College environment. As I mentioned before, I got some money to pay for this and build it out. And if they are on, the main problem seems to be Macintosh, because Linux users are already used to using another piece of software in order to make a program run. And so I got in most of my Windows users in the class. I got in most of my, well, there are only a few Linux users. It was the Mac users, and I still got a couple of those in too. But because I couldn't get all of the users in, we were having some technical issues having to do with sound. And I tried for a while to get the, everybody to turn off their microphones and things like that. And that's kind of got challenging. I ultimately had to say, okay, let's fall back to Zoom. And that's where I'm kind of at with this software right now. Does anybody have a question about the software or what it can do? No questions? Okay. Like I
actually, I'm the faculty 02 there.
Okay.
It's I think it's a Roman avatar.
Uh-huh.
How do you move around?
Oh, good. Oh, okay. So your arrow key should by default move you forward and backwards, and then turn right, left. So that's my arrow keys.
Oh, okay.
There you go. Now, if you
All
use
right.
the plus key,
Plus key is for flying, right? Something like
plus goes up, minus goes down. If you want to go through a wall for some reason, hold your shift key down and then the appropriate movement. Can you change parameters like the gravitational constant? I don't know that there's a gravitational constant in here. I mean, I pretty much float. I can change what happens while I'm flying. There's a number of, if I come up here in settings, the free look mouse will impact my flying. Notice there's a number of sounds that go on. The head bob. So if you want to have your head bobbing while the camera's, while you're walking, then you can turn that on. The ignore pitch when flying and swimming is useful for me. Otherwise, if I'm facing down, when I fly towards the ground. And so, there's a number of different things that you can do along that lines. There's some things that allow you graphics right here that allow you to deal with older computers. The rendering will not be as nice, but it would allow people with less capable equipment to come in and effectively participate. Other cool things about this is you are an avatar now. So let me do view front camera, and let me go down on the ground and face, go out a little bit. I can wave. So I could have the students wave if they want to hold up their hand. I'm lecturing, I'm facing the students. There's other things that you can do there. There's dances and stuff like that. So, you could, show that you're excited about something by doing dances or something like that. But a number of different programming things that are, okay, that's enough dancing, that are kind of built into the environment. Let's see, what else? That's pretty much the rundown of what it does. I'd love to have another instructor that has a less rigorous class. Most of my classes are, I've got to convey an amount of information and get them to absorb it. I don't have a lot of extra room in there for, in case I don't get I need a test environment where I can test this out until I get all the bugs worked out. So anybody interested in doing something like that, I will help you. I could help you design the lecture hall. We've got this environment for a year, and I've been using it now, like I said, this quarter. I got it a little bit before the quarter, kind of a little late because I didn't spend a lot of time on aesthetics and developing the lecture halls because of how late I got it. And I wanted to have enough of them up to where I could bring in a couple of my classes. I was able to use it, like I said, in one class. It was the 8400 class. I needed them to work as a team. And so I put them together as teams, and the effort was work together as a team to get into this environment, figuring that members of the team would have issues getting in. And for that assignment, they were studying how people work together as teams. But we were able, like I said, be able to get probably 75, 80% of the class in here. And it looked like it was going to go as, I'd be able to run the full class in there. And then we started having the sound loops that I could not get full control over. And so I kind of backed out of it until I can figure out how to control that in advance. Other questions?
Yeah, I'm Davine. I teach physics. Eons ago, we tried the virtual environment Second Life, and I'm sorry, I was a couple minutes late, so I'm not sure which virtual environment this is, but had tried at that time. Second Life was new; it was much harder, to do. And I think we had to pay and then didn't have funds or something. But the idea I was working on that I think would be fabulous would be the idea that you can bring objects into a space that you've created. So say you created a lake and you had some objects that you could take to the top of a tree and drop. So then we could bring in rulers and have the students kind of do a virtual measurement kind of thing, or observe differences in object behavior if we change physical parameters. So what if we change the density of the liquid in the lake? And then what happens to the boat? Or we change the gravitational constant so it's more like the moon. What happens to objects? Not so much the person being able to fly and all that, that's okay, but kind of looking at physical situations and then being able to create some, I can't take a classroom to Mars, but if there was a cool virtual environment, we could.
Let me check something here, because if I'm logged in as administrator, I do get to change the attributes of the world. Okay, now I'm the administrator, and let's see, options. Let's look at universe options. I can change build. Somewhere I thought I saw gravity. World. Features. I mean, this is something I could ask the guys that are working on this. They do have, this is Active Worlds. You can find them at www.activeworlds.com. They're the oldest 3D environment on the internet. They've been around, and I've actually been a member with them since 96, I want to say, and they've been around since I think 94. Yeah, there's the different chat channels. And you can see I can turn off things about like allow flying. Could have sworn I saw something related to gravity somewhere. But how accurate it is, I don't know.
Do objects interact with other objects in a recognizable way? If I threw a box against the wall, would it just fly through like or would the wall act solid?
The wall will act, it actually depends on the primitive. Most of them will act solid. Like if I try and run my avatar through a wall, I'm not used to looking at it that way, Chase camera. Okay. My avatar is going to stop at the wall. I can use shift and see my avatar won't go through the wall now. And object to object, it all depends how there's a category, attribute of objects that is that allows you to state that things can go through it. That is not the default condition for the objects, with the exception of a couple objects that are defaulted that way, that are designed for environments so that you can make it limited light or fog or something like that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions about anything on the environment?
So I have another question, sorry.
Uh-huh.
Regarding this software using this Avita, right? So so all the student has to, they also have to download the software in order for them to join this virtual environment, right?
Yeah, and that's why I made it available for you guys. If you just email me, nicole.cook@seattlecolleges.edu, you can actually go through the process that they would go through in order to get in.
Yeah, so I just tried, but I have to first download the software before I go in. So my question is, what if some students say, I cannot do this, and for whatever reason, I cannot download the software, and then some of them will not be able to join this virtual learning environment, right? What are you going to handle with this situation?
Yeah, then this is an issue. Like I said, I had a class this quarter, which it had been my intent to fully teach inside this environment. And it was a class of application development students. So the students really don't have the out of, I don't understand technology. They're all in the technology. I mean, they're training to be programmers, right? And despite that, we only got around 80% of the class in. And I had, I don't know, 4 or 5 people just kind of saying, I can't get in, when I know if they applied themselves, they could get in. So this kind of, if I extrapolate that into other areas, certainly I'm going to have groups of people that could legitimately make the claim, I'm not technically savvy and thus have a problem with it. But really, that's why I wanted to make it available to the instructors, so that you can really see it's not if you're on Windows, it's not difficult at all. You download it, you run it, and you're in. The problem becomes Mac users. Mac users they expect everything to be done for them by the operating system, and Macs now run on top of Unix. And so if you don't understand the workings of Unix, which most Mac users don't, then they really they're challenged by getting in. They have to run Wine and then run this inside of Wine. So good. Yeah, it's a point that I don't know the solution to right now. I thought for sure that because I was doing application development students, I'd get everybody in there. Surprise on me.
Yeah, I feel like there might always be some students, they just insisted they couldn't do this.
Right. I mean, another use for this is if you do have students that are either technically oriented or well motivated, realize all it takes is a little motivation to get over the problems. Just research what's happening, Google it on the internet, and there's YouTube videos and stuff to help you do this stuff. You can do teams in here. Let's say you want your class to meet in groups. Well, wouldn't it be cool if they can meet in groups where they're all represented by avatars? And so now you're only needing a group of 4 or 5, however many in the group. You can pretty much say, well, you can do it on Canvas, or you can do it in this cool environment that we have here. So like I was mentioning before, we have it for about a year. I'm going to try and do another class in here. I'm trying to get the technical sound loop issue fixed, because if I had the sound problem fixed in the class I did attempt to teach, I was ready to teach where anybody who couldn't get in was just watching from Zoom. They were watching over my shoulder as me from Zoom, and everybody else was participating in the environment. It had been my hope that if I did that, the people watching over my shoulder would go, oh, geez, I want to be in there, and apply a little bit more motivation to get in there.
That's a good solution, I think. Yeah.
And I will share that solution when I get it going of how to get in without creating the sound loops. I mean, it creates that really harsh sound when you have your microphone looping in and back around. There's a name for it, feedback. Yeah, you get a feedback loop. As soon as I figure out how to do that with a Zoom session running, I will share that. Right now, that's what I'm working on.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions?
Yeah. So are there ways of limiting access to certain spaces? Like I'm thinking of like if I wanted to use a virtual lecture hall, is there a way to keep other people who happen to have an account from, flying in, or, you know what I mean?
Yes. So I
Like,
have
lock the door somehow. I don't know.
I pretty much own this environment. And we have a universe, not a world. So if I go in here, notice I get
okay.
world and universe. And so this is one world. Right now, our universe has one world. I could go in and we could create another world. I have not done that. And that could be a world that we set up just for your classes. And I'm pretty sure I can do a administrator of that world, which would allow you to specify who comes in and out. But again, realize then you have to create usernames and passwords and things like that, which I, at this point, have been doing. Okay. Any other questions or anything else you'd like to see? I could build a little bit if somebody's interested in seeing how long it takes to get up a building. It doesn't take that long. And if you really want to play around with this, maybe a blast from the past. If you really want to play around with this, you can go to activeworlds.com and download the software from there. It won't take you into our environment. It'll take you into the public environment. And that's where you see other people running around, and it's worldwide. I mean, sometimes people will be talking in a different language in there. But there's huge amounts of building in Alpha World or one of the 100 other public worlds that are currently in there. Other questions? Anything else? I mean, I pretty much have gone through what I wanted to do, make sure anybody that's interested knew that we had it, knew the basics about it. Well, if there's no other questions, I did record this, so I'm assuming it will be available somewhere as a recording. You're welcome. Okay. I think the future is going to go here. I mean, the coronavirus can't get in there. And you can have as many students as you want gathering in here.
Thanks, Nicole.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole.
You're welcome. See, stop recording.